Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our press briefing number 5. Today's focus is going to be on public safety, reentry procedures, and supporting disaster victims. Today, we have a number of guests with us that are going to help provide some information on what's going on in the community, boots on the ground, so to speak. And we have also we have folks from the county that will also provide some insights as to what steps are next. We have Dan Baldwin, who's the president of the Community Foundation.
Nick, I have no sound. I can't hear. I'm going to reset and see if I get my sound back, just so you know.
We have Dan Baldwin, the president. And can you all hear me? Thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay. I have Dan Baldwin, the president of the Community Foundation for Monterey County, who will be talking to us about financial resources that will be available to disaster victims. We have again with us today, Katy Castagna, the president of the United Way for Monterey County, who will talk about clarifying statements with regard to the governor's announcement yesterday with regard to funding. We have Tanya Costa, the founder of All In Monterey County, who's been handling a tremendous amount of donations of essential goods for disaster victims. And we also have the Undersheriff with us, Keith Boyd, who will be talking about the public safety issues and things that are most concerning the folks of Pajaro. Additionally, we have Roxanne Wilson, our Homeless Services Director for Monterey County, and Hanni, our Equity Officer here at the Emergency Operations Center. And we're also fortunate to have with us, and we're very honored to have Alejandra Bologna, who is the Consul General of Mexico, and Rodrigo Navarro, who is the head of legal affairs for the Consul General of Mexico. So we're very pleased to have them, and we're grateful to have their support, because we know that many of the people that we're serving are Mexican nationals, and thank you so much for being with us. And so since you have diplomatic privileges, I'm going to invite Alejandra Bologna to make an opening statement. And Alejandra, if you wouldn't mind making your statement in both English and Spanish, and then we'll go to Rodrigo. Welcome to our briefing.
Hello, thank you so much for this invitation. Buenos tardes, muchas gracias por la invitación. I want to thank the authorities, County of Monterey, for helping us yesterday, for giving us access to the area to understand the situation of the community. Muchas gracias a las autoridades del Condado de Monterrey que nos permitieron estar el día de ayer presentes para conocer cuál era la situación de nuestros connacionales. Vamos a trabajar de cerca con las autoridades locales para atender todas las necesidades de nuestra comunidad. We will work together with the local authorities to help our community going through this whole process. And we are going to also giving through Rodrigo the different phones numbers that you can call if you need something for the from the consulate. Y también vamos a estarles otorgando los números telefónicos del consulado para que si tienen alguna necesidad particular se puedan comunicar con nosotros. Estamos evaluando la posibilidad de llevar a cabo un consulado móvil especial para Pájaro, solamente para los habitantes en Pájaro, y esto les estaremos informando más adelante. We are going to do a special service of mobile consulate in the city of Pájaro, just in that location. Soon we will announce when we will do that.
Thank you very much. We are grateful for your presence here, and we're certainly grateful for the support of the Mexican government. Rodrigo, would you like to add anything to the General Consul's comments?
Thank you. Just like say again how thankful we are for all the services that you've been providing to our community. Just again tell you that the consulate is going to be there, and we want to be kept on the loop. So anything you do, any effort to bring resources to our community, we will love to be there. Yesterday, we were working and talking to the authorities and to the people from the county. And whenever you have these hub of resource centers for the community to approach and have different access to different services, we would love to be there. We like to be there with you. So please just keep us on the loop. And thanks for everything you're doing for our community. Gracias nuevamente por todo el apoyo que nos han dado, el reconocimiento de todo el trabajo que están haciendo y recordarles que queremos estar atentos en la conversación. Entonces, cualquier esfuerzo que hagan para poder llevar servicios a la comunidad, manténganos ahí cerca en el consulado en la mente. Y una vez que se establezca este centro como un hub especial de servicios para la comunidad, nos gustaría estar presentes ahí. Ahorita en el chat voy a poner nuestros números de contacto para que puedan también establecer algún tipo de línea de emergencia para la comunidad y los directos de nosotros para que este grupo pueda comunicarse cualquier necesidad que haya. Muchas gracias nuevamente.
And thank you so much, Rodrigo. We appreciate you being here. I failed to mention at the top of this briefing that we also have Lou Bauman with us, Dr. Lou Bauman, who is our interim director of the Monterey County Water Resources Agency, who will be able to address questions later on with regard to the levees and the river situation. Next, I'd like to go to Mr. Dan Baldwin. Dan Baldwin is the president of the Community Foundation for Monterey County, who has set up a special fund for disaster victims and providing other support to this community. Dan, welcome to our briefing.
Thank you, Nick. Well, hello, everybody. One of the things I want to start with is that this is a situation that, as you all know, is unfolding in different ways every day. So we are adapting our grant-making approach and our delivery of services to circumstances as they are continually changing. The Community Foundation has started a storm relief fund. If you include the money that's on its way, we will have raised maybe $1.1 million. We've granted close to $500,000. So far, it has been really focused on getting direct financial support to people who are impacted. The fund was started before the levee breach, and so we were dealing with people in all parts of the county originally, but now obviously the focus has turned to Pajaro. As you all know, it's complex. There are 2 different counties involved. I'm talking every day with my counterpart in Santa Cruz County, Susan True, the CEO of the Community Foundation Santa Cruz County. We had a meeting this morning that included that foundation, us, and the United Way, just making sure we're trying to align our efforts and really provide support where best we can. Philanthropy is very nimble. It can act very quickly, and it can get direct support. Obviously, though, public funds are the largest tranche of money by whatever factor you want to throw on there, 10x, 100x, and but we can be in there very quickly. Everybody's very impressed with the shelter that's been set up at the fairgrounds in Watsonville. So congratulations on that. What we've been doing right now, because we had a network of community health workers that were established during COVID, and we're utilizing their expertise and their ability to be on the ground. We are trying to provide as much direct financial support as we can, mostly in the way of gift cards / debit cards, and trying to then also work with groups that can do assessments for larger needs. FEMA is going to be in the picture, and that kind of complicates because you don't want, it's a good complication, but you don't want to give support to someone, benefits to someone that's going to get in the way of their FEMA benefits. But because we're dealing with a lot of renters and then also parts of our undocumented population, there are going to be people that are going to be outside of that total benefit universe. And so we'll be trying to make sure through various means that we are able to get as much support of those people as possible. So that's a general overview. Nick, I might have run over just a minute or two from what you asked me to do. I'm happy to answer any questions. And then our partnership with Krista, Hanni, and with the United Way and Lou Bauman, who I talked to yesterday, we're all trying to coordinate this together.
Thank you very much, Dan, and we appreciate all your support and we'll open up to questions in just a few moments. And now I'd like to turn to Undersheriff Keith Boyd. Obviously, safety and security concerns continue with the residents of the Pajaro community, and it's a top priority for the County of Monterey to protect not just life, but property of all those. So welcome, Undersheriff Boyd, to our briefing today.
Good afternoon, everyone. First off, I just want to state it's unfortunate that we're all here together today. You know, unfortunately, disaster has brought us together yet again. And, you know, our goal is to not be in this predicament. The Sheriff's Office is working with its community partners in public safety, local fire departments, public works, other entities within the county, as well as the Department of Emergency Management to oversee the community's needs and safety. Currently, there are the community of Pajaro is still under an evacuation order, but we are actively working with our partners to assess the area to try to create a situation that we're able to allow for the evacuation order to be rescinded or at a minimum lowered in the future. It's a complex process, but we are currently actively working with our other partners that have roles in that process. At this point, I will return it back to Nick.
All right, thank you, Undersheriff. Appreciate it. And I know you'll be available for questions as they come up in a few moments. Next, I'd like to introduce Tanya Costa, who is the founder of All In Monterey County. We have a very strong partnership with them to help the disaster victims. And Tanya, could you offer a few words to get the conversation started so we can go to Q&A? You're on mute.
There we go. Hi, everybody. My name is Tanya Costa, and I'm with All In Monterey. We are a community organization that mobilized at the beginning of COVID. Our goal is to, boots on the ground with kindness, help our community, whatever they need. So our first mission is to help our community. Our second mission is to motivate community members to volunteer and nurture those with the service in their heart so that they have a good experience and continue volunteering, which will build a very resilient community.
Oh, hell yeah. Because
Hello? Okay. That being said, we have mobilized at the Monterey Fairgrounds. We are accepting donations here. Our hope is to fill this room with the donations needed by our community members that were impacted and turn our donation center into a distribution center. We are also in communication with the management at the shelters, asking them if there's anything they need. And we go through the shelter managers so they have the opportunity to the respect to not bring so many items there that are unneeded and for them to be impacted by unusable donations. And then we help individuals who have been impacted by the floods through a form that we put up on our website and our social media. I'll give you a quick example. There was a couple who wrote in saying that they were staying in their car, but they needed dry clothing, blankets, and a tent. Through our donation page and our volunteers, we were able to get all that they needed and deliver it out to the park which they were staying at. So right now we're helping the shelters, we're helping individuals who write us for their needs. We're taking direction with Krista, Hanni, and Justin. And sorry. Right next to the airport. We're right next to the airport. We're at the fairgrounds. So basically that's what we're doing. I look forward to learning more and am very grateful that you put All In around this table because we are definitely here and want to serve.
Well, thank you very much for being here, and we appreciate all that you're doing for the residents of Monterey County, in particular those up in Pajaro. We couldn't do this without you, so thank you. We also have with us, I just want to mention for those people that are interested in getting information, we do have Beth Brookhauser from the SPCA on with us today. The SPCA to date has rescued many pets. Today, they're sheltering 212 animals for folks from the Pajaro community, and they're doing a tremendous job. And then additionally, we have the American Red Cross on with us. And so when we get to the Q&A portion, if you have any questions with regard to SPCA services, what the Red Cross is doing, they're more than happy to answer. I believe also we do have a representative from PG&E on, should you have any questions with regard to PG&E. But first, I want to turn real quickly to Roxanne Wilson, just for a very brief opening statement, and then we'll go to Krista Hanni, who's our equity officer here at the Emergency Operations Center. Roxanne and Krista, welcome, and Roxanne, please go ahead with your opening remarks.
Oh, good afternoon, I think. Time is weird. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have been deployed to help out at the Watsonville shelter, and it has been one heck of an experience. The community has been really showing up to support the individuals here, and I really do appreciate all of the work that's happening in the community. There's still so much need. The capacity at the shelter is nearly full every single day with a waiting list. So we've been working with community-based organizations to build up a network to fill that that gap, while we still explore ways to expand. We did expand last night, and I think we added 80 beds to this shelter overnight, and we are taking in families ever since that was able to happen. So thank you again for all of the work that you guys are doing, and reach out, yes, if you have any other questions. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much, Roxanne. And Krista Hanni, who heads up our equity desk here at the Emergency Operations Center. Krista, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Dick. I'm glad you say it's an equity desk, because it's a real team approach, and it is actually myself and Vicente Lara as a co-lead as equity officer, but really there's a team. And you even just met Roxanne, who's part of the team, and Daniel Gonzalez, who also you may know for aspects of interpretation here. He's been working as part of the team in many ways. So really the reason for that is because we focus on the equity of the response, and that's for the impacted communities, and it requires information flowing back and forth with the communities, with the community-based organizations, especially that are really embedded and trusted by the residents. And so we have been working with the CBOs as our community-based organizations, as Roxanne mentioned, especially at the shelter, but then also, working to get information out to the community-based organizations that are in other parts of the county, so that they can provide services and reach out to people who may not be at shelters, maybe with family and friends. Some of the services at the shelter, for ranging from interpreters to case management and assessment, which are services for children and youth, like childhood service, early childhood education services. That's all because of working with partners. We also are developing a few sites where we can think about having services out in the community, not over just at the shelter. And so stay tuned. We are developing those, and so that we'll have that, and those will transition into more information as the response goes into the recovery mode as well, and having supports for the community residents there. Of course, people can always call 211, and that's an amazing resource in our county, where when people need services for a wide variety of reasons, all those social conditions of health, they can call 211 to be directed to what is nearby. And then we also heard about donations, and there's aspects of how we can try to get various aspects of that, the financial supports to those who are financially impacted out, and the partners ranging from the foundations to those. And I mean, just lastly, this is possible because the community partners are such important advocates for the residents, and we greatly appreciate their partnership.
Thank you very much, Krista. So just as a reminder, we're going to go to the Q&A now, but we do have other experts on with us today on this press briefing if you had questions. Of course, we have our friends from the Mexican Consul office. We have Lou Bauman, Dr. Lou Bauman, who is the interim director of the Monterey County Water Resources Agency. We have folks from the SPCA, the Red Cross. We have a number of experts that should be able to answer your questions. So I'm going to go to the chat first, and we also have Daniel Gonzalez, who will interpret any question that you would like answered in Spanish. Daniel, we're going to go to Victor Guzman's question in the chat first, and it's directed at Dan Baldwin. And it says, Dan, has the Community Foundation already begun distributing cash cards? And if not, when will that begin? How much assistance is being awarded to each recipient?
I apologize. I'm eating lunch at my desk. So yes, we cash cards are being handed out. So through a couple of methods, we've made grants to organizations that are distributing them. Organizations that both like Catholic Charities, organizations that are in both Monterey County and in Santa Cruz County. We are also utilizing some of the community health workers that were developed through the VITA program. That that infrastructure was created during COVID. The standard denomination of card that we distribute is $500 per card. I have to also tell you that the need is great. So if a family gets, through different sources, more than one card, we all know $500 only goes so far. We're not wringing our hands so long as the need is there. We just want people to get what they need.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. And to Tanya, a similar question was asked. I think both Ray and Victor had a response, but I'd like Daniel Gonzalez to please summarize quickly what Dan Baldwin said in Spanish.
Hey,
Hey,
oh, sorry.
Nick,
Go ahead,
I'm sorry. I think you skipped. Ray asked that question first. The one that I asked was about how much had been raised since the start of the storms, and has it gone up after the breach at Pajaro? That was the same question I was trying to ask Tanya too. But
Okay.
I'll let you translate first. But that was
I apologize, Victor. We'll get I misread the chat, so we'll let Daniel do his thing, and we'll get back to that.
Buenas tardes a todos. Good afternoon, everybody. La respuesta que se hizo para la pregunta sobre si ya empezó la distribución de tarjetas es sí, ya inició la distribución de tarjetas a la comunidad. Hay dos formas en las cuales la fundación la Fundación Comunitaria del Condado de Monterrey está distribuyendo los recursos a la comunidad. Una de ellas es a través de subvenciones y becas que se están haciendo a organizaciones sin fines de lucro que están haciendo trabajo con la comunidad, sobre todo durante las tormentas. También se está utilizando la infraestructura que se creó a través del programa Vida con las trabajadoras comunitarias, haciendo la distribución de tarjetas. Actualmente la distribución es de $500 por tarjeta. Y si una familia recibe más de una tarjeta, sabemos que $500 no es quizás suficiente para cubrir todas las necesidades. Entonces, mientras la necesidad se esté cubriendo y las familias estén recibiendo los recursos, la Fundación de la Comunidad seguirá trabajando para distribuir estos recursos.
Thank you, Daniel. And going back to Victor's question, Dan, this is directed to Dan Baldwin. How much has been raised since the start of these storms? Has it gone up after the breach at the Pajaro River? And that same question would be directed to Tanya.
Yeah, it absolutely has. We've seen a considerable interest. I would say out of the 1.1 million that we have, either in-house or it's been confirmed is coming here, at least 400,000 of that is this week alone. And a lot of people reaching out, asking specifically, making sure that the funds get utilized in Pajaro. So there's been a real heightened awareness since the levee breach.
Thank you, Dan. And how about Tanya, give us some indication of how much has been raised in your organization?
So not much. We have our regular donor base that sends us money whenever we mobilize to help in the disasters. And for us, we have probably spent nearly 2,000, but our incoming donations, cash donations, has been a little bit less than 900. So a lot of how we serve our community comes out of the pockets of my very committed team at All In. So we have the capacity to do more once we have more. I'd really like to talk to Dan Baldwin about how we can, support one another, especially because we're getting a lot of messages from the community asking for help, and we help them the best that we can with our little resources. We do have a great volunteer base and great donor base, but the more tools we have, the more we can help.
So it's a very simple grant application. It's the simplest one we have. If you just go online or contact Laurel Lee Alexander in our office, turns around very quickly. We're happy to make a grant.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We're not only providing the press information, but we're doing matchmaking here as well. So, all right. So we're going to go to questions in the chat. And I think Aldo has his hand up, but he also has a question in the chat. When the media asks a question live, please introduce yourself and the station or the news publication that you represent. Aldo's question, I think the sheriff's office will be addressing this. When will families be able to return? What is being done to communicate with them? I can handle that. Sheriff Underboyd, Boyd, if you'd like to direct that with regard to the return estimate.
Sorry, Dick. The return is, I wish it was today, but I can't say that. You know what I mean? It's a very challenging process. So there are issues that we need to address in the community before we can give an all clear and rescind an evacuation order. So it's not an easy answer to say today, tomorrow, the next day. There are multiple entities that have to participate in a process. We have to get a clearance for structural integrity of every building or structure that was impacted by the floodwaters. We have to have an inspection conducted to determine about environmental health issues. We have to have inspections conducted by our public works teams. There is a lot of pieces that have to occur. And this occurs in a staged process. One occurs before the next because it's a tiered effect to allow for, okay, structures are good, move into the next team and the next team and the next team. And so, we have to take into consideration that we have a community that was inundated with water at varying heights affecting those structures. The sewer system was impacted, mud, silt, sewer. There's a lot of potential contaminants that are in the area. And we can't just allow the public back into their homes because potentially we have to know that we're not putting them back into harm's way. There's inherent dangers that could be present, and we want to make sure that we don't do that. And that's a decision that's not being made in a bubble. That decision is being made by multiple partners engaged in that process, not just the Sheriff's Department, but the Department of Emergency Management, up there, North County Fire, Department of Public Works, Department of Environmental Health, just to name a few. They are all stakeholders in making this decision. And we don't take that decision lightly because we are making a decision to keep people out that impacts their lives. But we're also making a decision if we let them back in and it was the wrong time, it could impact their life as well. So that's the best I can give you right now. But we are actively in that process of evaluating the Pajaro community to hopefully be in a position to get people back home as soon as possible. We want them home as soon as possible, and we're working diligently to do that.
Thank you, Undersheriff Boyd. I appreciate that. And with regard to communication, what we are doing is we are standing up a recovery webpage. We will be sending out that link today with English and Spanish information and every step of the process of recovery and repopulation. In addition, for those who don't have access to the internet, we are going to print up about 2,000 flyers in English and Spanish that will be distributed throughout the shelters and throughout the community where the disaster victims are. There is a tremendous amount going on to communicate with the community. Social media as well will be utilized. Hopefully the media will share some of this information that they're hearing today. But every single effort, there's not one effort that's not being made to make sure that every single person, every resident of Pajaro has information that they need. And as well as working with the community-based organizations, not just which are here today, but also the ones that are with us throughout this. Daniel, could you please do a quick summary in Spanish?
Sure. Bueno, Estamos, lo que se comentó ahorita es sobre el regreso a las instalaciones y al pueblo de Pájaro. No es algo que suceda, no va a suceder hoy ni mañana. Es un problema que se tiene que ir resolviendo. Hay bastantes inspecciones que se tienen que hacer para que se pueda por fin levantar la orden de evacuación y la gente pueda regresar a su vivienda. Y la seguridad de la población es lo más importante. Entonces el departamento del sheriff, también en conjunto con el departamento de manejos de emergencias, va a estar trabajando para hacer todas estas inspecciones y que por fin la gente pueda, cuando se pueda regresar, que estén seguros y a salvos al hacerlo. Sobre la comunicación que estamos teniendo con la comunidad, se han emitido bastantes, digamos, bastante información a través de los diferentes medios, ya sea en redes sociales. También se han imprimido volantes que se están distribuyendo con la comunidad para que todos los residentes estén informados sobre lo que está sucediendo en el área de Pájaro. I would like to also mention, with regards to what you were talking about, Nick, in terms of the community-based organizations, we are currently working with a local Pájaro organization to set up a resource truck at the bridge so that residents can come up to the resource truck and get information about what's happening at Pájaro and where they can get support, if they need shelter, if they need resources, where they can get them. Voy a traducir eso al español. También estamos trabajando actualmente con una organización que trabaja en el pueblo de Pájaro, que estamos viendo la posibilidad de poner un camión que tenga información y recursos para la comunidad, para los que quieran visitar el puente y puedan, tengan dudas o preguntas, necesiten recursos, asistencia, para que puedan recibir toda la información sobre dónde pueden solucionar algunas de sus necesidades y que puedan obtener recursos para poder tener mejor información y tomar mejores decisiones.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And I think it's also to note that we are providing healthcare services at the shelter as well. Both Clínica de Salud and the Clínica in Watsonville will be providing mobile services at our shelters. So we're, as I said earlier, making every effort possible to meet the needs of the people, because Monterey County does care. All right, I want to go to I'm going to go to one more question in the chat before I go to the hands raised. I see you, Josh. I see you, Kevin. Aldo, we got your question. I'm going to go to Carl Cook with KION News, the CBS affiliate here in Monterey County. How will it be monitored that people who were affected by the storms get funds distributed evenly? I don't know, Mr. Baldwin, if you're able to address that from a nonprofit standpoint, or Katy Castagna from United Way, if you're there.
Hi, actually, I think Dan just left for another meeting, but equity is definitely at the forefront for many of us who are trying to serve those needs. It's very difficult to know sometimes, and as somebody said earlier, you know, we know that the need is tremendous, and I guess there's less fear about double dipping, just because you know that, you know, a single gift card is not going to help somebody get through this alone. So I think for United Way and many in philanthropy, the best route forward is to go with trusted local partners and those community-based organizations who know the community, who are used to serving it in good times and tough times, are the ones best positioned to provide that assistance in an equitable and fair way.
Thank you, Katie. All right, so I'm going to go to Josh from KSBW. Welcome, Josh, and please ask your question.
Thank you, Nick. So my question has to go back to what Undersheriff Boyd was talking about in terms of the timeline for reopening. First and foremost, can you give any kind of guess? If not, maybe an exact like 13 days, but like more than a week, less than a week, more than 2 weeks, anything like that?
Sorry, Josh, can you repeat the question? I hate to say it, but I'm trying to do a meeting in my office at the same time. It's just multitasking 101 here with this these events. So could you repeat it, Josh?
Totally fine, I understand. Part one of my question was just, do you have any kind of estimation, more or less than 2 weeks, more or less than 3 weeks, for when people are returning home?
It's hard to say. I would say the earliest we would probably be in a position to do anything would be sometime next week at the earliest, and that's a to be determined. There's a lot of factors. So the earliest would be next week. I don't see this being a month. I don't see this being I don't see this being a month. Based on the information I get, we're making good progress from everything I can tell. But earliest I could say is early next week, or sometime next week, not early next week, but sometime next week. But I don't think it's going to be more than a month. But at the same time, in an hour, I could tell you, Josh, I got to change the answer because new information has developed. So I'm basing it on what I know right now with the understanding that could change.
Okay, and then my immediate follow-up is this an all or nothing? Or are there some neighborhoods that might be allowed to go back in earlier because they were less affected?
So that's a good question, because the community and the county is divided into zones. When we talk about evacuation orders, evacuation warnings is all you've seen on the DEM website, where it breaks everything into zones. We are going to clear zones. And the idea being, if we can clear a zone and get a zone to get people back in, that's in the best interest of the community. You know, it's not we're not looking to do okay, we've got to clear every zone in a community. That's not really fair to those zones that we can clear. So as we clear zones, our goal would be to, and this is how we evaluate the zones and making this decision. We go zone by zone by zone. And that's what we've done every day when we look at these throughout the county, and we're looking at them on an individual zone basis. And if we can get one zone clear, that's a great thing. So that's the goal. We're focusing on zones, not on regions. And there's multiple zones in Pajaro.
Okay. And then just one more question. Our crews out there are seeing a lot of different law enforcement agencies. We know there's been a lot of agencies that have come in to help. Do you have any kind of estimation of how many outside of the Central Coast have traveled in? I think we saw San Mateo, for example, today.
We have received law enforcement support from agencies in the county of Santa Clara, the county of San Mateo, the county of Santa Cruz. And that's law enforcement. We've also received fire support services from a broader spectrum of counties for swift water rescue and such. We also were able today, they're going into service to support the law enforcement efforts is Axon Enterprises. They have a program called Axon Aid, which is developed for community-based events of this nature. We made a resource request through them, and they have deployed additional drones and drone pilots through their corporation to us to support our efforts in the Pajaro area for monitoring the area for safety and security, for monitoring for problems and such, evening hours, and that's a program we'll be able to use to benefit us as well, to force magnify the resources we're already putting in there.
Sounds great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Undersheriff. Appreciate that. I'm going to go back to the chat real quick, and then we'll go back to the hands raised. When will federal help begin, like FEMA, for families to start applying? What kind of assistance can families apply for if they are undocumented and were affected by the floods in the Pajaro community? Daniel, from a Department of Emergency Management standpoint, would you like to handle the question with regard to FEMA?
So sorry, can you repeat the question with regards to FEMA?
Yeah, the question is, when will federal help begin, like FEMA, for families to start applying? What kind of assistance will families apply for if they are undocumented and were affected by the floods in the Pajaro community?
Okay, so first, for FEMA to be able to distribute any type of assistance, they need to issue a federal declaration of a disaster declaration, which it should, it hasn't happened yet, to my knowledge. If I am wrong, I could be corrected, but A and B only? Okay, so A and B only has been approved, but not the complete. So once that happens, once the federal government issues that disaster declaration, it will bring individual assistance for people that suffered any type of damage to their property or their homes, whether rental or owned. And if undocumented people are actually able to apply, if they have a qualifying, like if they have a son or a family member that is a U.S. citizen, even if it's not them personally, they can utilize that person's status to be able to qualify. So we are, when we did the LAC in the previous, in the January storms, we were actually encouraging people, regardless of their immigration status, to come and still talk to FEMA, because they could walk them through the process of what they needed to bring. And if they qualified, then they would, follow through the process. And if they didn't, we would connect them with other resources and other agencies that might be able to assist them in any other way. So we definitely want to ask the community to come once those DRCs or LACs are open, to come and participate and visit and ask questions, because that is where they're going to find out exactly what they need. And we really want to invite everybody. Last LAC, we did a really big push in terms of messaging, in terms of getting it out to the community. So, and we saw the response, we saw the response at the different centers. We had lines and lines of residents looking for assistance. So that is what I think we need to focus on. And once the federal government issues that declaration, we will be able to provide them that assistance.
Thank you, Daniel. And to follow up on that, in a LAC is a local assistance center, and a DAC is a disaster assistance center. The disaster assistance center is federal, and the LAC is a local effort. Also to mention that there are dozens and dozens of agencies in these centers when they open up to support the disaster victims, not just federal agencies, but state agencies, as well as county agencies and nonprofits. So every single effort is made to ensure that folks get the support and the services that they need. And I'm going to go back now to the hands raised. I'm going to go to Kevin. Kevin, please, we welcome your question.
Hi, thanks a lot, Nick. It's Kevin Fagan from the San Francisco Chronicle. The questions came up this morning about whether the governor mischaracterized the $42 million coming through the United Way and USDA. And I know Katy kind of addressed that yesterday. The presser said she was going to clarify that today. Did you think, Katy, the governor mischaracterized the money? Are you angry or clarifying, or what's the reaction today from your end?
May I, Nick? Okay, thank you for the question. I do appreciate the opportunity to clarify. I think it was a case of conflating two different types of disaster relief. So just to back up a little bit, we, United Way Monterey County, are part of our state association that was a successful applicant for COVID relief funds granted by the USDA. So this is, 3 years into COVID. We're just prepared to roll out this funding this month. And it takes the form specifically of $600 cash relief or gift cards directed to farm workers, food processors, and meat packers. So our United Way Monterey County is one of 15 local United Ways that are collaborating to distribute that aid. Statewide, the amount was $42 million. It was divvied up amongst the locals. And so to give you context, we are in the process of setting up our strategy to roll out those cards, but we've only got about $300,000 to work with here in Monterey County. I know that in Santa Cruz County, they have, I don't know the exact amount, but they don't have $42 million either. They have some small subset of it. And we, in the coming days, will be developing our strategy for distributing that relief. Again, it was focused on COVID impacted farm workers. We know that there's a lot of overlap. Many of the people that have been impacted by the Pajaro floods would also be eligible for that USDA support. So there may be a way we can support this particular population, but I do appreciate the chance to clarify that just a portion of that large amount is being distributed through United Way here on the Central Coast.
Okay, so the $42 million is not coming into Monterey County. About $300,000 is coming into Monterey County. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, do you think the governor stumbled, or was he overgeneralizing? How would you characterize that? And I know you probably have to be pretty careful about how you phrase such a thing. So, but how would you characterize, what do you want to say
Well,
about that?
I think, all of us think about different ways we're providing relief to our communities when they're most vulnerable. So he happened to know that there was this, I'm guessing, he knew that there was this USDA relief. I do also want to point out that there were 10 or more successful applicants across the country. So there's a number of other partners that are distributing USDA funding. He may have been suggesting that we try and use the current disaster to help prioritize people. I don't know what he was thinking, but he was using a real resource, but conflating it with a localized situation.
Okay.
All
Do you know, is there going to be I'm sorry, I don't want to dominate here, but is there going to be more resource coming in to United Way that you'll be able to distribute to the farm workers? Or is the $300,000 kind of it?
We're seeking more. We have some other options for funding, and we're trying to tap funding in order to direct to some of these localized efforts. So there will be more, and we're working with local partners to figure out the best way to equitably distribute and support. And we're also interested in not only the immediate relief, but longer term recovery needs, because we know that this situations like this are not going to go away in even in a month. If we're able to move folks back into Pajaro, the needs are certainly going to exist for much longer. So we'll be looking for short and long-term support.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Katie. And thank you, Kevin, for your question. We only have about 13, 14 minutes left. We might go over a little bit because there's a lot of questions today. I'm going to try to go through these pretty quickly. Kevin, I know you also asked another question about shelter census. If it's all right with you, we will send the written report. Oh, there you go. It's up there right now. There's this shelter census. We'll send you the written report after this briefing, if that's okay. All right, so going back to the chat, we do have a question. I believe our representative from PG&E is on the line. Stu, are you there?
I am. I'm just checking to see if Myra Tostada, our media rep, was able to make it today.
Okay, Myra, are you on with us?
Well, let me start by, you're going to the question regarding Pebble Beach, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
First of all, let me give everybody our media contact number. If you don't have it, it's 415-973-5930. Again, that's 415-973-5930. And directly to the question, let me just briefly start. Number of outages right now in Monterey County is 4,450 on 70 different outages. To the point, directly to the question, Pam's question, it's just the amount of significant damage. And now the crews are working in areas that are hard to get to, that they can't get in bucket trucks and things like that. So everything has to be hauled in by crews, and it's all manual work. They can't just use the crane and put the truck up. They can't just use the bucket and get up there and do the work. It all has to be taken in. Poles have to be dug 8 feet deep or 10 feet deep by hand. And then they have to climb the poles, do all the wiring, drag the wiring, bring in a bunch of equipment to make that happen. So that's the process they're in. And I know they're making tremendous work. And we hope to see those numbers of outages drop dramatically by 10 o'clock tonight. End of report.
Thank you very much, Stu. And thank you, Pam. Pam Marina from the Monterey County Weekly had that question. I'd like to go now to a question in the chat. Ray had a question for Undersheriff Boyd with regard to resources that will be made available for Pajaro residents who will be able to return to their homes promptly. I think that question was answered, Ray.
No, it wasn't. Sorry, Nick. It wasn't for Undersheriff, but it was just going off of his question. Just so we're dealing with a situation where there's, and maybe somebody in here could help with that. Just to clarify, I mean, we're dealing with a situation where, it's unclear when these folks will be able to return to their homes. It seems like it's a bit of an indefinite situation. Who knows what state their homes will be in, when they're able to return. I'm just curious kind of what resources are there at either local or federal or state level to house these people potentially, beyond just keeping them in shelters.
Gotcha. And I think, well, I'll start and then Daniel can jump in too. So obviously, we're going to keep the shelters open as long as we need to. That's number one. And we are not in any way, shape, or form going to leave those folks behind. So just let's be clear on that. And we are adding capacity to the shelter. We expanded the shelter at the Santa Cruz Fairgrounds. We're up to 415 customers that we can serve there in that shelter. And we, as of this morning at 10:30 this morning, we had 328. So we do have capacity there. Secondly, we are working with other nonprofit organizations with the hopes of being able to provide some hotel vouchers. So that's something that's very much in the works. And as Daniel mentioned, if we get the support of the FEMA, there's the potential for bringing in FEMA trailers in the event that need still exists in the coming weeks or months. So Daniel, do you have any other information you want to add to that?
If you want me to translate the response, or did you want me to add to?
You can do both, actually. If I missed anything, and you can, it's all yours.
No, so with regards, with regards to that capacity and we also have the shelters in Salinas, and we're looking to also extend some of that support to potential donation distribution points that we're working on, and so we're trying to provide as much help as needed and as long as it takes, because we know that this isn't something that is going to go away quickly. So we understand that there's a need and a want to get back to Pájaro, but we're only going to do this once it's safe for the community to do so. So it's important to understand that it's a process that takes time, but we're looking as much as possible to provide residents with the support they need and a place where they can be safe. So I'm going to go ahead and translate to Spanish. Como estaban comentando, están preguntando qué recursos hay disponibles para la comunidad y cuánto tiempo los residentes van a tener que esperar, y si los refugios van a estar abiertos durante este periodo de tiempo. Y la respuesta que dio el señor Pasculli es que los refugios van a estar abiertos el tiempo que sea necesario. Hemos estado trabajando para agregar capacidad a nuestros refugios, a nuestros albergues, donde está la población, sobre todo de Pájaro. Y actualmente tenemos capacidad para 415 camas, 415 personas que pueden estar en nuestros albergues. Y esta mañana hicimos el conteo de la población que tenemos actualmente, son 328 personas. Entonces aún tenemos capacidad para poder albergar a más personas si es necesario. Y también tenemos otras organizaciones sin fines de lucro que están participando y que nos están apoyando a través de vouchers para los hoteles, para que la gente pueda tener acceso a hoteles si es necesario tener acceso a ellos. Entonces, eso es lo que estamos haciendo, tratando de asegurarnos que la comunidad, si necesitan un espacio donde estar, puedan tenerlo. Y como ya lo comenté, no es algo que vaya a suceder de la noche a la mañana. Primero tenemos que asegurarnos de que para volver el lugar esté seguro y que la gente no vaya a tener ningún riesgo a su salud o a su bienestar personal al regresar. Entonces, esas órdenes se van a levantar en cuanto sea seguro para la población. Gracias.
Thank you, Daniel. All right, so I'm going to go back to the hands raised, and Aldo, I'll get back to you, but let me go to Jeremy first because he didn't get to ask his question yet. Jeremy from KAZU, Monterey Bay, please go ahead with your question.
Hi there. Yeah, it's Jeremiah from KAZU.
Oh, sorry, Jeremiah.
No worries. This is actually for Katy, and I wanted to get back to the United Way, the USDA money that was going to United Way that Governor Newsom spoke about yesterday. I just wanted some further clarification. So you mentioned that there's only $300,000 of that in Monterey County. I guess I'm wondering, just for like clarification, are farm workers who were impacted by the storms but don't have a COVID hardship eligible for this money?
So the good news about this relief is I think it's a pretty broad qualification for COVID impact, and it includes costs incurred for masks, for testing, for childcare. And I think it's safe to say probably everybody living in Monterey County in the last 3 years has had some costs related to COVID. So I believe the interpretation is broad enough that self-attestation, which is a pretty low bar, that somebody has had a COVID impact will be enough to qualify them. The other criteria is that they worked for one of the qualifying industries, as I said, farm worker, food processing and meat packing, sometime since March of 2020. And the required documentation is photo identification and then pay stubs or W-2 tax form or a employer written attestation. So we've designed it to be as low barrier as possible. And again, the original lens was COVID impact. And because it is a relatively small amount that we're talking about here, the question is, how do you prioritize people to get this particular distribution of the cards?
Right. Well, I guess, yeah. So to continue on this like train of thought, like it's really just expanding this pool of money that was for COVID victims, you know, people who were overlooked during the pandemic, farm workers, and it's just taking that money and kind of also applying it to flood victims who probably qualify because of COVID hardship. So it wasn't actually money set aside in any way for these particular storms.
Exactly. And that's the key message. This completely predated the current winter storm situation.
Okay, well, with that in mind, I just one more question for you. You said $300,000. Is like any of that actually available, given what you just said about how there's so many people impacted, farm workers in particular? Has all of that money been claimed? Can people still apply for it, and are they likely to?
Great question. We have not opened up applications yet, so. We know it will go fast, and we want to make sure we're doing that in an accessible and equitable way. So it has not yet been claimed.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you very much, Jeremiah, for your question. I'm gonna go back to the chat real quick because we do have a lot in the chat. Sarah Rubin from the Monterey County Weekly asked, with more rain in the upcoming forecast, are there additional concerns about additional flooding or other impacts with the coming weather expected to be less severe? Let's see, Lou, are you still on? Lou answered your question in the chat. I just see that popping up. The chat keeps moving because more questions keep coming in. There was also a question about, did we learn anything from the evacuations and what we could do better? And a short answer to that is yes. Every single day, at the end of the day, we have a debrief and we look at what we did, what we could have done better. And so those are things that we're constantly looking at and how we can improve in everything we do in all aspects of the public service that we provide to our residents. Let me go back. Carmen Ferguson had a question. All in Monterey County is open year round already. Oh, that's Carmen. Carmen, you were just adding some information. Is that correct?
Tanya's just using, Tanya Costa, all in Monterey, is just using my computer for better service reception.
Okay. All right. Great.
Just
All right.
stating we have ongoing support already.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. That's in the chat. I also put the PG&E media phone number in the chat for those who are interested. I'm going to hop over to Aldo now with his hand raised. Please, Aldo, go ahead and ask your question.
Hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'm Aldo Toledo with the Mercury News. I'm just wondering about some of the dozens of people and families that are gathering on the Main Street Bridge. I've talked to some people that are wondering, you know, what kind of resources there are for those folks and what kind of communication is being organized there on the bridge. Yeah, just wondering about how you guys are handling that situation of, you know, there's about 100 people on the bridge yesterday and today. How's that being handled?
I think we already answered that, but I'll repeat it, and Daniel Gonzalez can repeat it as well from the DEM standpoint. But we have developed a number of communication tools. We're actually in the process of printing 2,000 flyers that are going to be distributed in English and Spanish to the folks that are in shelters and on the bridge. They will be given to the security and the sheriff's deputies that are monitoring those points. We also, the Department of Emergency Management is working with community-based organizations to develop a resource trailer that'll be located at the foot of the bridge to provide resources and information and referral to those residents that are impacted by the disaster. Also, I think Roxanne Wilson and Krista Hanni mentioned multiple times about the dozens and dozens of community-based organizations that we are working with throughout the county, in particular in the Pajaro area. We also are working with health organizations and things of that nature to make sure folks are informed. And additionally, our shelter staff is giving information every day and provided with briefings, just like the rest of our team at the EOC. So besides that, we're using traditional means of trying to get the media to provide information to the public in the form of news. We're using social media, and we set up a website for recovery efforts that's gone live today. That link will be sent out in mass today as well. Daniel, did I miss anything?
No, you pretty much got it all, Nick. That was a great recap.
All right, great. I appreciate that. All right, so it's 3:01. Kevin, did you have another question?
Yeah, I just had one just to clarify. Federal relief money and assistance that's coming in. Is there any federal regulation that's going to bar undocumented immigrants from receiving that relief? Like, for instance, for the United Way, since that's coming through USDA or FEMA funding. Do you know of anything like that?
Well, I think Daniel answered that question before. I can tell you that our community-based organizations and nonprofits that we partner with are not concerned about immigration status. All In is not concerned about immigration status. United Way is not concerned. The Community Foundation is not concerned. And as Daniel mentioned earlier, FEMA has some requirements, but any member of that family, if it's a son, a daughter, or a spouse, either side, if they are U.S. citizens, even though the other members of that family may not be U.S. citizens, they are eligible. In addition, I want to remind you all that we do have the Consul General on from Mexico on this call, as well as her chief legal representative in the Consul General's office. And the Consul General, I know, is committed. The government of Mexico is a committed partner with the County of Monterey. Ambassador Bologna, would you like to make any comments with regard to additional support that might be available from the Mexican government? You're on mute, Ambassador.
Yes, in those cases, we need to have the person to came to the consulate, and we analyze case by case. So the important thing is to know who are the persons that will need some help and the kind of help that they will need. There is also a certain concern of our community about what's going to happen if they are losing or not their jobs. And we will also work on that, because we know that some of these persons that came, they came also with some special visa as H-2B.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. Not everyone who's undocumented working in the fields has family members here. What happens to your solo farm worker who has no relatives who are American citizens?
Exactly. So that those are the things that we will need to review, but we will check case by case. And I don't know, in those cases, as they are here with a legal status, is there also they're qualified for the help or not? It's something that we need to review also.
I think, Kevin, too, I'll add to what the ambassador said, that the County of Monterey is committed to every single human being that lives and works in this county. And we are going to do whatever we can, whatever is humanly possible, to make sure these hardworking people are cared for in the most positive way possible. No one is going to get left behind. And if there are cases of people not feeling that they're disenfranchised, reach out to us. We will help them. We have an equity officer team, a desk. We have social services. We have Clinica de Salud. We have so many committed people. And please remember that probably more than half, maybe 3/4 of our employees come from immigrant families. And we are totally committed to this population, and we are not going to turn our backs on anyone.
Thank you.
All right, so for today, that concludes our press briefing. I want to make a special thanks to all our guests, but in particular, I want to especially thank our Mexican Consul General and her Chief Legal Aide, Alejandra Bologna and Rodrigo Navarro. This is truly an effort, an international effort, if you will, and it just goes to show you that it's a small world after all, and we're here to support each other. So thank you for attending our briefing. As always, we will send you a link to the recording of this briefing, and we are available to arrange interviews and or provide additional information via email or via phone. Thanks very much. We'll have another briefing tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Be safe and have a great day.
Thank you.
And